Hi everyone, how's it going? Let's start again with our blueprints, okay? So we've looked at the theory, especially with a number of different nodes, and now we're going to focus on some set type of blueprints that we can use that are quite important for the creation of our lampshade blueprint and things like that. Okay, so which ones, which type of set type blueprints are we talking about? Well, the first one we already used, and we've already created a blueprint to help us. And this one is something I've named set material after the first node that we're going to be using. So what do we want to do with it? Well, we simply want to change the material, and we can use this to change the material of the ball that's in front of us. So I have the C material for it. It's called the mi_red material. And I want to be able to change it to another color so that it can be perhaps yellow or another color. And I want to do this via a blueprint. So to do this, I have to use this node called set material. Okay. So first, instead of using this ball, here's what I'll do. I think the best way to do it will be this way. I use this ball's already in a scene. Okay. So it's already a static mesh. We can put it to the side for now and create a blueprint which will contain this mesh, and we'll change the material in the blueprint. Okay, so just so we can make it a lot easier for us, and of course, let me just say at this point, yes, there are other ways of doing it, but let's just focus on this one, okay, and then we'll increase the complexity of things gradually. So the blueprint is already created. I've named it BP_set material, and I'm going to create it from scratch, okay? Just so we can see how it's put together. So let's add a sphere to the scene under our components list, and I'll set the scale to 0.5. There we go. And I need to put the material on it. And if we remember right, it was mi_red, this one here. Let's drag that in. Nice. So now we have our little red sphere ready to go, yeah? So this is what we need to do to start. I'll just save it and we'll add it to our scene. Need to get the blueprint actor. There we go. And add that to the scene here. So it's important that this is in our scene for it to work. And it's exactly the same as the one we had just as a static mesh. We've just done it via blueprint now. Okay, so now we want to work out how to change its material. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's jump into the event graph and we'll just delete these nodes to start with. Okay, so let's think, how do I change this? Well, we can do it by pressing a key. The first thing that we looked at in one of the earlier classes was how we can use the function keys, right? Or the input keys. So first we need to have the event begin play. I want to add a keyboard key. So we need to put enable input because this is a blueprint, remember, it's not a first person character. So we need to make sure we have event begin play and enable input. Then we need to get the player controller and plug it into our player controller. Perfect. Let's add a comment and call it enable input. So here I'm just enabling the keyboard functions. Okay. Next step, I'm going to create a keyboard function. I'm going to type in F because we're going to use the F key. So now we can use the key F on our keyboard to trigger what we put after this. So we're going to use F and pull out, and what we do here, there's several different types of nodes we can use, but let's talk about set and get. You probably use get and set nodes or variables in every blueprint you're going to use in reality. So the set material is just another one. And here you can see it's already found it. It's already worked out because context sensitive is on that it will work with our sphere. Okay, so that's great. And it's put the sphere as a target, just making it a lot easier for us. So in this set material function, you might already see how this is going to be really useful for us. The target here is the sphere. Okay. Now in our case, it will be a sphere, but in your case, it might be something else, another mesh. But then we have the element index, which is the material index for the mesh. In our case, it's just a default mesh from Unreal. So there's only one material applied to this. But what it's referring to here is the material ID. Okay, so the element index here is 0. We can go further into this when we go look in more in depth in other classes in the future. But simply put, that's what it's referring to. So then we have the material underneath, and we're allowed to select the asset, which is select the material that we want to change. And I can just come here to the drop down to select the material, or I can use the search function, or I can go to my content browser and drag it in. It's really that simple to set it up. So we've got our material selected there that we're going to be using. You see how easy it is to set up this material. We've already connected the F key to be able to change the color, right? So here, just with the F key, it turns green. Now, it doesn't do anything else because I've only enabled it to change the green by pressing F. So we might need to do a little bit more work here. Let's suppose, which I'm sure we do, let's suppose we want to alternate between one material and another. So in our flow control class, what we should be saying is that we want to create the ability to flip between, okay? Flip between. See what I did there? So that's why we use the flip flop, which is the basic way of switching between two commands. So I can simply Control and W these nodes, the set material one, plug it in there, and then you probably guessed it, we just need to change the material here. So we can use a drop down and choose a different color. Let's choose red, what it was before. Okay, so it's going to return to the original state. And let's choose that. That will work for this example. Because once we set the material to a different color, it's going to change to something new, but we want it to go back to the original state, right? So we'll just put red here. So just alternate once. Let's play it now, and we'll press the F key and show you how it works. Okay. So there's the alteration. As simple as that, really. It's really quite simple, isn't it? Now, it's a nice way for us to just introduce us easily or simply to the set material nodes. Now that we've understood the theory of flip-flops as well. And that is a good feature. You can just use the same target rather than duplicating. Now, our blueprint for the material exchange is ready. We're alternating between material A and material B. And we're doing all of this via our keyboard function with the key F. Now, I could have many more options, many more colors, but I wouldn't be able to use the flip-flop because it only allows me to use 2 options. So in this case, we'll need to use the other node we looked at previously, like the multi-gate. And then I can add that and enable us to loop between all different options in there. You could have, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 options and exchange between the order. So every time you hit F, it will run through the different order of colors that you've got listed. So this is a simple blueprint. So let's make it a little bit more complex, okay? Just to show what we can do with this. So suppose you come to your scene, you've added your sphere into it, like the one we've got here. Let me compile and save. Now you can add your blueprint to the scene because that has a mesh as well, doesn't it? Every scene might have a different setup, of course. It might be, I don't know, maybe some cushions, maybe a bed, a sofa. So you'll need to set up your blueprint, come to the material, set material node and connect it as we've done. But you could make your life a lot easier, okay? Let me show you something else that can really help. So we can be a little bit more artistic here, and let me show you what I tend to do when it comes to changing material. Do you remember when we looked at the sliding doors, we made variables public so we can edit them in the editor? We can do exactly the same here with our material changer. So we can switch between materials, but actually understand in our editor what we're doing, okay? And you can choose them from your content browser and just add them in. So let's have a look at how we can do that with our blueprint here. So just as we made before, let's try and make this public as well so we can edit it. So instead of specifying a material here in these nodes, what we need to do is we have to create a material instance. Okay. Now there are two ways to do this. One way is to come here and create a variable with a certain name and then look for it, and you'll find it. But the list can be quite long when it comes to looking for the specific name. But Unreal helps us. It helps us make the process a lot easier. So let me just get rid of this now. Okay, so to make our life a lot easier, what is the best way to work? Well, we promote these to variables. Okay, so instead of coming over here and adding things in, what we can do is you can just click and promote to variable. See that? So that's a really good thing to use, because at the same time, you can do this from left to right as well. You can also do it from here. It doesn't matter which direction, you can always promote to variable from these. And I found that the material inference, the material inference here variable, this is the one we need to be using, okay? So we can just click here, create a material inference, and I can come back here and click there, and the same over here. And just name it 02. Make sure the eye is open so we can edit it in the in this viewport. So it's open here. Obviously, I'll make it look a little bit nicer. Let's put it into a category. So it's under a heading. Maybe we'll call it material. There we go. So we've got our category for that. And let's do the same for this one, just so it's a little bit more organized when we look at it in the details panel. There we go. You see that? So when I select it here, it gives me the option then, when I make this visible, it gives me the option to select from my content browser and apply the materials that I want to be swapping out. Okay. Now, as a reminder, I'm changing the material for this node, and that's why it doesn't change anything here. Okay. So I need to come to the sphere, and that can be done outside also, remember? So I need to come to the sphere to change the master one, right? And now if I push play, I'll use the material from here. And that's important because sometimes it could become a little confusing if we're not entirely sure what's going on. We can change it if we want to at this level, but under our hierarchy of our blueprint, we can also change it too. But we must just remember what it's going to look like at its initial state. So here, when I press play, you can see that it's red. If I press F, it goes to yellow, white, yellow, and white. Okay, it doesn't go back to red anymore, does it? So before moving on, let's take a look at what else we can do. Just move it down here. Let me just test something just so you can see that it's working. I'll put green here and red here as it was before. And if I play and press F, it swaps between red and green, right? So that's just something you just need to be aware of with flip-flop, because I only switch between two, or A and B, okay? So if you want to use more options, then flip-flop might not be the way to go for you. You might want to use something different, maybe like the multi-gate that we explained. But this at least allows you to change between two types of material when you press F. It's at least showing you the basic concepts of the material changer. So another tip would be also to just keep your materials sorted properly like this. And once they're done, you can migrate them between new projects as well if you want to. Okay, just a nice tip that I found useful. So you don't have to set things up every single time. So let's just suppose we start with yellow here and green there. So when I press play, it's red. But the first material here is yellow, okay? So what I can do here is set a material here, okay? And then when it begins to play, I can choose a specific color for it to start as, okay? So I can choose material 2, which already has a variable, and link it here, compile and save. And here I have material 1 in yellow, material 2 in green. But here in the scene, I have a mesh with the color red. So let's press play. And see that? It turned green because I told it to do it from the start of playing the game. And when I change it, it switches to yellow. And this can be helpful perhaps to avoid confusion when creating material. Just thought I'd point out to you that's also possible. So it will always start with number 2. So just so you won't have problems with option A. So that's up to you if you want to adopt that technique when you're using the flip-flop. Cool. So this is our blueprint then. Let's comment around this and call it set material. All right. And let's also comment here as well. Call that apply second material. Cool. Just helps us remember what we came up with our blueprint. Let's compile and save. Now let's talk about the other set node that we mentioned earlier, which is set intensity. So here set intensity is applied on a lamp. Let me just close this. Now I've already created another blueprint for us so we can get going, but the rest of it we're going to create from scratch. Okay, so intensity in this case is going to refer to a light. Now there are many kinds of set intensity, but I'm only going to talk about the one related to the light for now. First thing is that I have an empty blueprint here, and I'll create a lamp or a light, and I'll create a point light. There we go. And let's compile and save. Initially, I'll leave the intensity at 0, and the color is going to be blue. There we go. Dark blue, actually, just to make the effect a bit more visible. Compile and save again. Nice. Now I'll add this to the scene. Let's just find it. There we go. I'll just put it here at the top. So there we go. There's our blueprint. I just think I've just reduced the light source actually. Let's go down a little bit in intensity to 0. Just to make it more visible, and I'll reduce the skylight too, just so we can see it a bit better. Let's drop the intensity to 0. Or actually not 0, maybe 0.1. Okay, nice. Cool. That's a little bit better for us. So I'm not going to change the sky. Let's just leave it this way, just so we can see the effects. So I have a light here, a blueprint with a point light. Now it doesn't have a mesh or anything. It's just a point light. Okay. And now I'll turn this lamp on. Okay, let's do it this way. And I'll just get rid of these. In fact, I'll leave event begin play because we can use that. There we go. Oh, and whilst I remember, another tip to make things easier in creating blueprints. Let's suppose that you have this node here, this one. Okay, let's suppose you have this node here. You might want to do the same to the other one. So what you could do is just Control C, Control V, and it will still work. Okay, so we'll just apply this to this blueprint. It just saves time. You can compile and save, and there we go. Just make sure you're using the correct references, okay? And there we go. So I'm copying this piece here, which is basically to enable my input. So now I can start putting some functions in. So now I'll do the same thing as I did before. I use a function for this one, which let's use G. We don't want to use the same function key as the material switcher. So we use the G key rather than F. And now I want to turn the lamp on. So what does that mean? Well, it means we literally want to increase the intensity from 0 to a higher value. Okay, so we're currently set at 0, and I have to change it to, I don't know, whatever intensity I want. Okay, so let's now just think about the intensity we want it to set to. Let's try 10,000, that is. Okay, 10 million, I believe. Is it 10 million? Or is it 100,000? It's a higher number anyway. Okay, let's leave it at 100,000. Nice. So just so we have an idea now where we're switching it to. So we're starting at 0, and then we're going to go to 100,000. So I'm going to have to change this via a blueprint. Now, to do this, we need to set another node called set intensity. Yes, there we go. Can you see it's already found it for us under the components and light? Set intensity point light. Now I'll edit this one here. Let's add that in. It's already found our reference, which is great. Awesome. So it's given us that option as well to put the new intensity. Really simple, isn't it? So it's got that flow as we're used to now, and the targets attached to it. We can add the new intensity here. So I'll type that in, and I can create a variable as well, which is even better. I can leave the variable open actually as well, so we can edit it outside the blueprint, just as we did on the material. Now let's call this, what should we call it? New intensity or light intensity? That's better. And it's a float variable, which is great. That's what we want. And we'll save. So now we have, oh, I don't think I put it to editable, did I? Let's go back into there. And let's put open the eye. There we go. And put it under a category, light, which is good enough. Save and go back. So now in the blueprint, there we go. There's our control. So we can use whatever intensity we want and edit it here. So after I press play and then the G key, let's get a bit closer to it. I press the G key. There you go. It turns on. But it doesn't turn off because we haven't created that reverse function just yet, have we? But it's pretty cool, right? In fact, we don't need to use a reverse function here. We could use a flip-flop, couldn't we? Like we said, a flip-flop is like a light switch, either on or off. Perfect occasion for us to use this node. And we can do Control W to get a copy, so we can set it to the value it will be for when it's off. We can use the same target as well and just put a new intensity in, plug that in, put a new intensity to 0, which would be the off condition. And you can add another variable here if you wanted to, but we can leave it as it is now, because the other variable will allow you to add it to your editor as well as the off amount, so you can flick between 100,000 and something different, or another level, or whatever you wanted. The zoom is working pretty good, isn't it? And I mean, the light actually looks really nice. So we can turn it on and off with the G key, and we can even do it whilst we're zooming. How cool is that? So this is it for now. This is all we wanted to show you really in this class, the set material and the ability to adjust the intensity using the flip-flop node. And these two nodes are really useful for ArchViz. In fact, you might find you're going to be using them quite a lot through various features in your project. And it's a really fast and simple blueprint to set up, isn't it? Didn't take long, but it's really helped by the fact that we understand the principles behind things. This is a very simple way of setting up what's also known as the variant manager, which comes with Unreal Engine, but a simple way of doing it, which might be much faster for you. Now, of course, the variant manager is better if you're switching materials and other things, different meshes, etc. And we'll see this plugin later on when we discuss it further down the line in our course. So these are the two nodes I wanted to show you. And in our next class, we'll create our blueprint for the lampshade. Okay, and we'll integrate these two nodes that we spoke about when we get that done. Okay, cool. See you in the next class.